I've been working on the images I'm gonna submit to the Illustrators Gallery show at Bologna in 2024. I didn't start until about 5 weeks before the deadline, which is like next week. And so that has made me pump out an average of a piece a week, a finished piece a week. I didn't record a lot of the process, unfortunately. I decided to make this video like after the fact, and I was just so swamped with making art that I just didn't want to film it. But hopping back into YouTube now, and I will show you as much as I can of getting ready for Bologna 2024. So I'm making a dummy book for Bologna, and I'll take you through the whole process, and I hope that it shows you how disorganized and how jumbled the process can be, but you know, things will hopefully end up turning out well. We'll see. Okay, so this is my round 1 dummy book for Bologna. I basically just took some A4 paper and printed out all my digital sketches and folded it up, glued the pages together, so this is what we have. And we'll walk through what it's looking like right now. So far, the feedback I've gotten on my "this is a horse" book is that there's too many "this is a horse" statements. That's kind of the point of the book, so I hope that's not a problem. I'm gonna play around with different wording, but again, I want the focus to be on the illustrations with this project, and you know, I'm pretty much considering any time spent revising the story is time I could have spent on art that I'm not. So it's just not really a concern of mine. We'll see though. You know, I am an illustrator and not an author, so this is definitely out of my comfort zone, making my own story, but it's definitely something I'll have to learn at some point. So, yeah. So today I think I'm basically just gonna dive in and start exploring how I'm gonna make finished art for this book. I really like the idea of doing like a paper cut mixed with line situation, but that's never gone well for me. So I'm wondering if the big bold shapes with juicy little line, if that concept can work, but with just like big blocks of paint and line instead. Does that make sense? So sort of paper cut-ish, but not. I'm trying to break free of my perfectionistic relationship I have with perspective. If you look at some of my work I did earlier this past year, you can tell that I was really hanging on for dear life to proper perspective while trying to like push composition and angles and stuff, and kind of stylizing in a weird way that didn't really mesh well with having perfect perspective. So I've just kind of decided, you know what? It's time to forget perspective. And hot take, I think that unlearning perspective is harder than learning perspective. It's really tempting when you've been doing art for a long time to really go after how things look in real life exactly, and I am really trying to escape that. I'm trying to have more fun, be a little more free with my stuff, and yeah, so we experiment to figure it out. Okay, so I have just put in a little bit of underpainting, except it's not a painting, it's a colored pencil. So I've been just adding in a little bit of color. I like going in with pencil before painting because it's sort of trying out a color before committing to the color. So I'm just laying in some color and I'm sort of getting to the part where I can start putting in the smaller details. So I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna try and use some more mixed media for these little touches. I think it'll give it a nicer look, so. So it's the next day and I just put in the rest of the dogs to the illustration, so. This is probably one of the first spreads I've ever done that I didn't think to myself, oh, I'll just like go in after digitally and edit this. So I'm actually just really liking how this looks as is. I will go in digitally in a bit and maybe correct some little things, but overall I'm really happy with how it's looking, so. Okay, so I promised you guys the full process to making a dummy book, and that's what you're gonna get. So I ended up cutting this spread entirely because it turns out that I was drawing a very controversial horse event, the hunt, and that was completely my fault because I'm just like, I just didn't do my research, and so I had no idea what I was drawing. I just kind of thought it looked nice, and I was like, oh, it's very British. It seems like very culturally British, which is fun. And yeah, no, it was the hunt. So I ended up changing it to this illustration instead, which I think is actually more successful anyways. So there you go. There's the full process. So I've just been working on the second spread for this new book, and I wanted there to be some interesting negative space in this spread. I like how it turned out. I kind of wish I put more details in it though, and because of that, I think I might try some collage and try adding some things. Colors always change on camera, and that's so frustrating to me, but that's what it looks like on camera. When I last checked in on this piece, I said I thought it needed a little more detail. And anyways, I started with one little thing and then added another. I was like, oh, maybe a little Western saddle blanket should be draped across the fence. And then I did that, and then I just kind of one little detail led to another, and I just have like, I think I have a lot now. And I think it's time to stop. So I feel like, you know, a piece is done when touching it would just ruin it. You know what I mean? So this is what we have so far. So far, this is what we have. And this is what we're keeping. To be honest, I really like it. I think the details kind of made it. It's an interesting composition. It's kind of flat. It's kind of folky in a way, which I really like. And I'm trying to make my art more like that. So this is just sort of me trying it out, and I think it went pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so some time has passed and I actually brought my book to class and got really, really good feedback on it, and I completely changed the story. It's very different now. So yeah, I just think it's a lot better now. It's a lot more emotional, and all I did was change it from third person to first person. I actually completely forgot to record the process of this next spread, so it's almost done, but this is what it's looking like so far. I think it turned out pretty good. Can't wait to see it with the text. I feel like that will be the real finishing touch here. So I've been pretty bad at updating you guys on my progress for Bologna, but I've actually been working on a little side project. Apart from the horse book, I'm doing another book. And I just I've never had a book come out of me so easily before. All the feedback I get for it is very much like, yes, just you seem to know what you're doing, so just keep going, which I've never had before. It just feels like very intuitive. I'm following my intuition on this one and just kind of making what feels right. And it literally took, it probably took 10 minutes to write this manuscript, and it just flowed. It was like a little dusting of pixie dust on my laptop keyboard. So one of my friends here in Cambridge is really into knitting and crocheting, and she's extremely good at it. And so she's always going to the Cambridge knitting store. And I happen to know this knitting store. It's right next to the art store. So I know how cute it is, and it's like floor to ceiling shelves of yarn, which is super cute. And they've just got everything you could ever want if you are into knitting. And anyways, she was there the other day and told me that there was this old lady there that had showed up to the knitting store because she had forgotten how to knit and she wanted to learn again. And I don't know if that's all she told me. But from there, my imagination just kind of took it and was like, oh my gosh, there is a story in there. A grandma who forgot how to knit. And then I started thinking like, okay, well, what if I kind of had a story about a grandma who forgot how to be a grandma, and so her grandchild is teaching her how to be a grandma because she has dementia or Alzheimer's, and it can kind of be a book about dementia and Alzheimer's. So without like overtly being about such a tough subject that no one really wants to read about with their kid. I don't know, you'll just have to let me know what you think about it. Yeah, so I have a little dummy book for it, and when I say this is rough, you guys, this is extremely rough. Like, I normally would not show anyone my work this early in the process, but that's what we're here for. Okay. I'm still playing with ideas for the end papers, so I was thinking of having a clean kitchen in the beginning and a dirty kitchen in the end, but I'll probably change that. My grandma is my best friend. I take her to the old library. I write reminders for her. I make us a pie. I teach her how to sew. I show her where she used to study. Mom says Grandma has forgotten everything. So I teach her every day how to write her name, how to check the mail, where she keeps the canned peaches. I hold her hand and I try to be patient. I say, I love you. And I know that it counts. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. No artwork to show, no nothing. That is literally it. So I'm gonna be just trying out one of these spreads in a style that I think would be fun today, and we'll see how it goes. Not really into this, but this is what I made. Yeah, I don't know exactly how I want to draw the grandma, because I obviously want her to have like really cute little wrinkles and stuff, but I struggle to not just like go in on the rendering and like make the gradations like super smooth and stuff, which is what I don't want to do on this book. I want it to be like rough and very like almost sketchy looking. At least that's what I think right now. See how that works. Okay, slightly more successful this time. I did the little girl too, so it was just a little easier. I think it turned out pretty cute. I used this acrylic ink for the hair, and I actually really like how it turned out. I feel like something that I did wrong on the other one was the realism of the eyes didn't match with the realism of the rest of the face. Like, this looks kind of off. But this eye is so simple, it demands that the rest of the illustration also be that simple. Otherwise it'll just look super out of place. So I think this works a little better. Okay, so it's been a while since I've worked on the horse book. To be honest, I was getting a little bit unmotivated to work on it. I'm not gonna say burnt out, because it was not even approaching burnout, but you know when you get to a really good stopping point, it's just really easy to like rest there for a really long time. It's like when you're on a hike and you reach this really nice log or a rock or like some ledge and there's a nice view and you're like, oh, this could be it, right? I can just stop here. But it's like, I know I can't stop here. I gotta keep going. So with that in mind, I'm just gonna try this spread out. It'll be a double page, so this page will just continue like that. Some more teepees. Okay, so I have a lot to catch you guys up on, but instead of doing that and being productive today, I'm gonna test out a bunch of new materials I got yesterday. I'm so excited about these. We have some Brusho. I got the color Burnt Sienna and Terracotta. So we're gonna be trying these out. These are just pigment powders. And then granulation liquid. I've been wanting this for so long, basically ever since I discovered Sydney Smith. This is meant to go with watercolor, but today I'm gonna be trying it out with gouache, so that'll be fun. And then of course a pan pastel. This was like way too expensive. I wanna say it was like 4 or 5 pounds. I'm not trying to make anything gorgeous here, I'm just learning how these mediums interact with each other and thinking how could I incorporate these into my horse book. So. I don't know if I have the wrong type of gouache, but it's just not really reacting. I've got the Holbein Artist's Gouache. It's not acrylic gouache, so maybe that's my problem. I don't know. Let's try it with watercolor. Hopefully it goes better. So I learned some lessons, messed around a little bit with the granulation liquid. It's super fun to use. I would highly recommend. Yeah, pick up some granulation liquid. I was messing around also with I have these concentrated watercolor droppers, and those reacted very nicely with it too. Like, just a bunch of beautiful accidents. It just looked like a bunch of beautiful accidents on the paper, which I loved. I'm gonna be working on a spread that I actually started in class and forgot to film, so this is it right now. I'm getting rid of one of my spreads because it's controversial, and I'm replacing it with something that you can't really see well right now, but I promise it'll look cool. I'm quite pleased with how the grandma turned out, not gonna lie. I just tried to simplify everything. I tried to simplify a lot, not overwhelm myself with too many supplies and colors, and I added this little pin in her hair, and I think that's cute too. I don't know, I want this book to feel really soft and understated and like, I don't know, loose. Two little bits of collage here, the earring and the little brooch. Quite chuffed with this, quite chuffed. I'm gonna go scan it and probably not gonna do any digital editing. And yeah, that's that. Thank you so much for tuning in to my process. I hope it illuminated something that you can incorporate into yours and showed you just how disorganized it can be, honestly. And yeah. My YouTube is Audrey Grace Art, my Instagram is Audrey Grace Art, and my website is Audrey Grace Art. So if you want to follow me on those platforms, you can too. I send out a monthly newsletter from my website, audreygraceart.com. I talk about a lot of things. I talk about art, creativity, relating it to other things in life, and just kind of ramble. So if you like ramblings, sign up for my newsletter. Okay, thank you for joining me.